Hey everybody, my name is Irma Mesa and I am the founder of Cafecito. We are a platform that curates serendipitous connections for individuals and organizations. And we run these coffee side chats to basically bring in founders, tech folks, experts to share their stories and really, share their struggles, challenges, and any advice they have to give to you, the folks listening, as well as, anybody who might be rewatching this in the future. So today, I'm extremely excited to bring on Ellen Joyce. And Ellen and I met, I reached out to her because she's doing really awesome work. We met like last month for the first time, and she's just an amazing person, just an extremely funny person as well. And she's running a really awesome business. She gave me a ton of, really great tips on sales and how to work with certain buyers. So I'm going to introduce Ellen in terms of passing the mic over to her and letting her give us more information about, what you're working on today, what your product is, and we'll kind of, dive in from there.
No, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
So, as you've said, my name is Ellen Joyce. I'm the CEO of the Digital Leader Academy. And at Digital Leader, we aim to establish a baseline of digital literacy for everyone. And when we say everyone, we mean everyone. We primarily work with underfunded schools. We work with community colleges and high schools in order to integrate technology education across every single class. So we put blockchain education in supply chain classes, we put artificial intelligence into marketing, and it has a twofold impact. The first is our goal and our mission is to attract more women and more minorities into tech, because a really awful statistic is that only 16% of senior leadership positions in tech are filled by women. And it's even worse when you look at women of color. Only 4% of women of color make up 4% of those taking the AP computer science stats exam. So when you look at why does that all happen? It's really because women and people of color don't see themselves in technology. They don't see people that look like them. So as a result, they don't see themselves there. So it's really what we're trying to do is help students in every single class see themselves in a technology role. And the other side of the coin is that really the students that we work with are the students that go on and work in our local and regional economies. So it also has a workforce development perspective to it, because really we need students coming out of high school, coming out of community colleges with tech skills, or else our local manufacturers or local HR companies won't know how to move with time. And I think here in Indiana and in the Midwest, we really struggle with the buzzword of digital transformation, but really so many companies are just stuck in the mud, and we need those coming through the ranks to help push them on, or else they're just not going to survive, which is really sad. So that's me. I know that was long.
Good. I think the mission behind Digital Leader is rooted in obviously problems that we have and we face today and we still are facing today. And I think you bringing education in a way that's accessible is incredible and very much needed. So it's awesome to have somebody like you in the Midwest and in Indiana who is doing this sort of work. So thank you for starting this and seeing a problem and going ahead and solving it. So I would assume, in talking about how you found this problem and, kind of where your motivation and passion sparked for it. How did that all kind of go down? Did you face this personally, or was it somebody that, mentioned this to you and you're like, I have to do something about this? How did that kind of start for you? Was it an idea and a notepad? Tell us more about how that went, how that played out.
Yeah, so I think when I look back at my life, it seems extremely obvious that I would be right here, right now, if that makes sense, running an education startup. But I certainly, my steps seemed random to me at the time. And so I was originally a math teacher and tutor. I studied computer science and statistics in college, and I loved both. I really did. I was the only female in my computer science classes, though, which kind of pushed me more towards, when I finished college, going down the statistics side, because I had more friends, more people that were willing to talk to me. I kind of just left computer science behind. I was a maths teacher, and I specialized in those with learning difficulties, which was purely, again, by chance. My sister is dyslexic, and she was my first ever student maths tutoring at home, and then it just kind of grew from there. And really then I was like, okay, math teachers don't make that much money, and also teaching math kind of can get boring, to be honest. So I moved into the big bad world of consulting, and I became a cybersecurity consultant for PwC. And I was, again, the only woman on my team, and I was very aware of this. And I'm gonna say, like, the token woman, nearly. Like, I don't feel like I got that job on merit. They hired me because I was a woman. You know, like I might have had the credentials and stuff, but to this day, I'm not sure if they hired me because I was the best person for the job. They just knew having an all-male cybersecurity team is a bad luck for PwC. So let's get a woman in here, and that just happened to be me. So after that sucking my soul for a while, I got offered a scholarship to study at the University of Notre Dame, thanks to the Naughton family. And I was offered to study entrepreneurship. Now, I did not know what entrepreneurship was. I did not think I was entrepreneurial. I had to write a little one-pager as like the entrance exam or requirements on, my entrepreneurial mindset. And I was like,
we all have one of those somewhat.
Yeah. And I really I was like, I don't know what I'm going to write about. And when I actually looked back and thought about it, like, first of all, I had to Google what is an entrepreneur, and like what defines an entrepreneur. And when I look back in my life, I think it's really obvious to me that I was someone who just like found a problem and tried to fix it. Found a problem, try to fix it. While I was in college, I went to Trinity College, Dublin, which is in the centre of Dublin. And there is a huge homeless crisis in Dublin. And I was walking past and cycling past every single day, all these homeless people sleeping on the streets. And I was like, there is a college, there is a university right here that could provide a whole lot of services to this community. Why are we not doing anything to help? So I went, and there was this, it was the Pizza Sunday Club, it was called. So every Sunday night, Domino's donated like 20 big, large pizzas, and a group of Trinity students went down to Grafton Street, which is like the main street in town, and we just chatted with homeless people. And they came, and what struck me was that I never realized, again, you don't realize these things until they're put in front of you. Most homeless people don't sleep on the streets. They sleep in hotels. They just don't have a home, and they're not the homeless people you think of. So that kind of led me to starting an initiative in college trying to help the homeless, which at the time I was just like, this is something that I want to do. I never thought of it as like a mini startup, if that makes sense, even though that's exactly what it was. Like, we built a one-pager, we had a logo, like we did the financials, and it was all about trying to integrate services. And every step of the way we talked to the customer, who was the homeless. So when I was writing this essay, I was like, hold on a second. There's so many instances like this. It's just no one ever told me that this is what entrepreneurship is. So anyway, I came across to Notre Dame in June of 2019, and it had always been my dream to go to an American college. Like, you see it on the TV, you see it on the movies. It was insane, and it was just an absolutely amazing experience. I remember this is so embarrassing. I remember, like, it was like my second or third day, and I was wandering around campus, absolutely lost, not a clue where I was going. And all of a sudden there was like people moving in, and there was loads of people shouting like "Go Irish," and there was loads of little leprechauns and stuff. And I was like, how do they know? Like, I knew nothing about Notre Dame. Preface this with, I knew nothing about Notre Dame, other than it was an extremely prestigious college. But I was like, how do they know I'm Irish? Like, do I smell? Like, what's going on here? And then someone explained to me that, no, that's Notre Dame, or the Fighting Irish. I was like, oh my God, why did no one tell me this?
I feel like that's a pretty important piece to leave out for you.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny.
So that was my first experience in Notre Dame. Was just awesome. Me being a bit of a tool. But so from there, I I had always been passionate about getting more women into tech, because it had been awful being there all by yourself. Like, it was not fun. So I found out that the local high school offered computer science at a high school level. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God, this is the solution to the problem. If there had been a high school computer science class in my high school, there would have been more girls in my college class. You know, this is the solution. So I went down to the local high school, Riley High School down in South Bend, and I offered to TA a class, like just help out in any way I could. I said, you know, I'm a student at Notre Dame and I've got some spare time, like I'd love to help out. They're like, you want to work for free? And I was like, yeah, I love working with students. Like, you know, I have a background in it. And they're like, but for free? So eventually they let me in the door. They were just so confused why this random Irish person wanted to work for free. But they were like, fair, free worker. So I went in, and Riley High School, to give you some context, is in the top 5% of diverse schools in Indiana. And it's 68% or 69% minorities. And I walked into that classroom and it was 80% white, 100% male. I was like, right, this isn't the answer, is it? So that's kind of how Digital Idiot started. Was I thought the system had the answer. I was ready to bring the fact that, like, you know, computer science in high school back to Ireland. I was ready to like petition the Irish government to be like, we need to do this. And then I noticed it's just not the solution at all. And the true bottleneck is getting women and minorities into tech. It's getting them into those classes is where the bottleneck is. And we looked a whole lot at, like, why are people not taking those classes? Why? And we did so much research on, like, human psychology even. It's wild. And that's kind of where we came to the conclusion of, okay, they need to be introduced to it, because the younger you introduce someone to technology, the more likely they are to, you know, go on and study it. So where can you introduce it to them? Well, how about every other class that they take at a high school? Because really, those classes, the problem that education faces is it's really difficult to stay relevant with industry. You know, 90% of a marketing class is perfect. Like, the 4 P's of marketing aren't going to change. They're going to stay the same forever. But a textbook is renewed like once every 3-5 years, and a lot happens. Like, a lot happens. So that's where we came in with the whole idea of, we'll make that 10%. We'll build the 10%, whether it be 15 lessons, 10 lessons, 20 lessons, that go into a pre-existing class, that simply upgrade the class to incorporate more technology. And we figured out a way to do it where teachers don't need to be an expert in the topic in order to run the class.
That's awesome. And talking about courses, like what you guys offer, you have like this entrepreneurship, you have logistics and supply chain. I think you have 2 more as well. Like, curious, like how you as like a founder, I know you have a team as well. Like, how did you all go about creating those courses? And how do you keep everything like up to date and running? Like, I would assume, like, I know it's easier because it's digital, right? So it's not a book where you have to print it and then, you know, in 6 months things change. But how do you kind of attack that problem of, like, how do we keep the content relevant, up to date? And we're also releasing new content as well. Like, how do you manage that?
So the funny thing, I was only just having a discussion earlier with I developed all the content at the start, and then Fernanda, who's also a Notre Dame alum, she's originally from Mexico. She came on board back in October to kind of like relieve me of some content development duties. But we were just talking about this because we built a blockchain course for logistics, and in that blockchain course we had, you know, written, you know, well, Bitcoin is just a simple type of currency. You can use it to buy and sell things. And the example was, you can use it to buy a Tesla.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you for changing that, making that statement.
Creating more work for you all. How dare he? Yeah, that's an interesting one, because you have to essentially keep up to date with like everything. Like Elon, that's just like a tweet he sent out. You have to be like on there, like we got to change this. This is related to our course. Like, that's a lot of work. That's awesome that you guys were able to spot it, and I assume it was fairly simple to switch things out, hopefully.
Yeah, that actually led us to, so we changed it to just remove it, but the long-term goal is to incorporate it, but use it as an example, kind of like a case study of like, okay, yes, it can be used. And, you know, Elon Musk said, let's use it as a form. And then he said, hold on a second. First of all, it's poor management of not thinking everything through. Then he turns around and reverses his decision. Why? Okay, the environment. So let's look at the environmental impact of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because that's also a really interesting and topical thing. So it kind of helps us. The fact that these things are emerging is kind of what makes us special and different, I think, is the fact that we are able to keep up with it. And it's really difficult to do, and you have to be really on the ball. And I think as we grow, like right now, I know every single lesson plan. I know every single PowerPoint. You know that way because we've built it. And I think as we grow, we're going to have to hire as we scale, because we need to have people who have 20, 30 lessons that they look after, that they keep up to date, because that's the joy. It changes so fast, and it means you can give students real relevant examples. The funniest was Dogecoin. Oh my God. I thought everyone knew what Dogecoin was, right? And we ran a supply chain logistics blockchain class back in like January, February, and none of them, they were all they called them non-traditional students, which I think is a bit unfair. They were all people who were like working while taking the class. So none of them knew what Dogecoin was, because they were all like 50. And they were like, what's Doge? I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be a great example. And then 2 months later, because again, our friend Elon spends his whole time tweeting about it and it's in the news, all of a sudden we were in the same class, the same demographics, all of them know it. Which is really interesting. But yeah.
That's great. I love that kind of like a selling point to working with you all as a classroom or as a teacher or as a school is like your content will be as up to date with like things that are trending, things that are in the news. Like that's amazing because people can relate, and I think when you can relate to content as a student and as a learner, it makes it more interesting, right? Like if I was taking a course and they were literally talking about like the Tesla Bitcoin thing that just happened last week, like I'm there with you, right? Because I read that article and I saw that tweet, right? And it makes it just way more interesting to get involved and just immerse yourself in that content. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the best thing that we've done is we observe classes of our content being taught. So we actually get to see how the student, and I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's always really important to see how the user interacts, because we have so many different stakeholders. We have the teacher, who's technically the user, the student is the consumer, the admin is the purchaser. It's very difficult to manage, and especially because like I like to have things under control, as I think all CEOs do, and I like to have all my cards in order, and I'm handing this lesson off to a teacher, and the teacher's going to do what they want with it, if that makes sense. Like they're going to add their own examples, which is so important because they know the students better than we do. But it's always great to be able to go in and watch a lesson and see what do students, identify well with, what suggestions do they offer for examples. It's always really great because when we've got like 6 high school classes of the same class running, generally they're all kind of at the same level. So it's, knowing your user is always important.
There you go. I think that's tip of the day, lesson of this conversation is know your users. That way you can build for them. And I think it's great that you're attending those classes. That's a great way to be in the moment, get some notes, potentially ask questions while you're there. Like, that's amazing. It's great.
Yeah, and it also helps our teachers because a lot of them are like, blockchain? I can't believe you want me to teach this. It's like, no, it's fine. I promise.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's awesome.
The other funny thing I would add from a startup perspective was we didn't start building the blockchain content till we had a customer. Mm-hmm. We had 2 weeks to build it. And it was a bit of like I felt like me and Fernanda, I felt like I was Steve Jobs and she was Steve Wozniak, where she was like, we can't do this. And I was like, no, Fernanda, I told them to do it. We have to do it.
Yep.
And it was like very late nights and very early mornings, and but it got done. Exactly. You know the way. But I never want to build something that a customer won't buy, if that makes sense. Like we don't build, although we have a huge variety of courses, we don't build till we have a customer. We know that there's a market, because there's no point wasting your time building unless you know someone's going to buy it.
Yeah, great. That's awesome advice. I love that. And then I want to, this last question that I wanted to ask you, I mean, making courses seems like a very challenging part of, you know, running the digital leader, but is there anything else that like maybe like one thing through this journey that you found that has been maybe the toughest piece of running your business, working with customers, getting feedback, any of that you would be open to sharing with the folks?
Yeah, I definitely think I've struggled confidence-wise, and because like in a startup, you fail multiple times a day at things. Yep. Like I come out of some customer sales meetings, because bear in mind, like you're doing things that have never been done before. And like with my sales guy, when we brought him on board, he's like, I'll work on a commission only basis. And I was like, dude, I need you to live. Like yep. We probably won't make a sale for a few months. Like we got to figure out the process. And like you butcher so many things. You get so many things wrong. And it's really hard to pick yourself up and go again and have the confidence to do it. Like some days I think this is the worst idea ever. Like I don't know if you found it too, but you just go through phases. Mm-hmm. Like some days it's the best idea you've ever had, and this is absolutely going to work. There's no way this is going to fail. And then 2 days later you go, this is an absolute disaster. Like I should just fold this. And they always say, like with startups, the highs are highs and the lows are really low. But you just gotta keep going, I think. Like perseverance.
For sure.
Perseverance.
Yeah, I think especially when you believe so deeply in the mission and the problem that you're solving, it's there are definitely going to be days where you want to give up, but it's that glimmer of like, you know, if I keep going, if I do this for one more day, if I do this for 2 more months, like we're going to be, you know, at point D, unless if not, I'll just stay at this point forever, right? And so I think there's a bit of that like initial motivation, you know, why I started this problem, why I want to solve this problem, who my customers are, that kind of keep us going. And yeah, I totally relate with that. I think a lot of people listening will as well, because it's part of the journey. It's not ever perfect. It's not ever a straight line. It's you could have a high for 6 months and then you have a low for a very long time as well. And like you just said, like keeping that mindset of like, let me keep going, like get it done. You obviously take breaks and like take care of the mental health, because that's super important too. But yeah, like keeping with it, trusting the process in a way is also something that I try to remind myself as well. Like people have done this before, and yes, some have failed. So if I fail, like that's okay. But people have also succeeded in whatever success is for people, right? And so knowing that, you know, people have done it before, it's not something completely new in terms of like the process, but I am doing something new in terms of the product, right? And like what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, having that, even, and just having like people around you that have done it before also helps. Like just seeing like your journey inspired me last time we talked. And so having those like little tidbits of like, hey, this person's working on something really awesome and they've made progress and they had their first sale, like that's inspiring, that's motivating. And so yeah, I think it's awesome just sharing your story with folks, and like the progress that you've made will, I think, be really helpful to people listening. So thank you for your transparency today.
No worries. I have one final funny / interesting story on that. So I think that perseverance, being true to your mission and like figuring out what actually drives you is always important. So like getting more women and minorities into tech is what drove me to do this, is what keeps me going every single day. And I have been pitching for fundraising, so we're trying to raise money, and I've been pitching to straight white males, That's at the end of the day, that's the investor side of things. So I have not had that on my pitch deck. That's not, I focus on, you know, workforce development and the skills gap and the economy and how this negatively affects all that. But at its essence, like, yes, getting people digitally literate helps with workforce development and all that jazz. But that's a few layers of like, what drives me is women and minorities into tech. And I pitched yesterday. God, it was yesterday. I pitched yesterday for Elevate Ventures, run a Nexus pitch competition, and it was a pitch for 80k, and we've done it twice before. And I changed this pitch around, and I focus solely. The problem is diversity in tech. The solution is digital leader. Like, that's simple as. And afterwards, their general counsel, Phil, he goes, Ellen, you know, great pitch. So, you know, we've seen this a few times, and, you know, we've worked with your company because we are a portfolio company that does already. And he's like, I don't really remember the pitch going like this. Like, I don't remember that being the focus of the problem. Right. And I was like, well, I'm going to be honest with you here. Again, the majority of people I pitch to are straight white males who don't care about getting more women and minorities into tech. Really, that's not where they're going to put their money. You know that way? So I decided that if you're not interested in what drives me as CEO, because you're investing early, if you're not interested in what drives me and drives me to make this into a multi-billion company and drives me to make sure that you get your return, then I don't want you on my cap table. If you don't care about getting women and minorities into tech, there's no room for you on my cap table. Simple as. And it's like, it's taken me a long time to get to here. Yeah. You know that way? Like, there's so many steps I've made along the way that is try to fit us into the box. This side, the box, exactly. And now I couldn't care less. Like, if you're interested in what we do and our mission, you'll invest and you'll be the right investor for us. But if you don't care, then I don't want you. And then I kind of, afterwards, I was like, I do want his money though. Was that the wrong thing to say? At the time, it felt great.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's awesome that you're staying true to you, and even though it's hard, people won't always agree, unfortunately. But that's how it is. I think hopefully the space is changing in a way where, you know, more minorities are able to get that access that we just don't have. The connections, the money, the family and friends around, whatever it is. Like, I think all those things are very much privilege pieces that some people
absolutely
don't. So I'm hoping, you know, things change, and it seems like some things are moving in that direction, but I'm sure it's going to take a few years, who knows how long, to get to the point where it's more level playing field, and it's not, you know, some of us getting left behind, or, hey, I can't run this product anymore because I don't have money, though it's solving a problem. So, like, all those little, like, things that I've noticed in my own founder journey, and I think you probably have as well. So yeah, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, and I think I am proud of you for, like, doing that in a pitch competition. Like, that's I know it's probably super hard, obviously, but I think it's awesome that you're able to, you know, stand up and share you and what you do. So.
My mother told me I was an idiot, that it's important to put dinner on the table.
Yeah, my mom would probably say the same thing, honestly. Yeah. Also, but yeah, I mean, it was great having you on our Coffee Side chat. Thank you for making time to hop on. And if folks want to check you out, I know your website is digitalleader.tech. And exactly. I'll leave the URL in this video, but anything else that folks can check out, whether it's social media, signing up for a demo, like, how can, if they're interested in implementing this in their school or in their classroom, like, how can they get into contact with you?
So this is where Sam, our sales guy, is gonna absolutely murder me, because we do have Twitter.
I got you. I'll look it up. For you.
I don't know how to use Twitter. I'm going to be honest. I'm a computer scientist who's terrible with tech. I think it's Digital Leader USA on Twitter, but on the website you can sign up for a demo. Definitely check out the website. It is pink. It is purple. We are getting women into tech.
I love it.
So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, it definitely caught my attention attention the first time I visited it a few months ago, so it's great.
It's definitely in your face.
It is, but it catches your attention. You're like, ooh, I want to learn more. Awesome, Ellen, really great having you on, and thank you so much for hopping in and sharing more about your work and why you're doing it and your mission and kind of like where you guys are going moving forward. So awesome having you on here.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Awesome.